Do you guys want to see an absolutely jacked up ThinkPad? Schwam! Here's one. This one here is this one here is the ThinkPad 16v. It's a 2024 model. Man, that was really stupid. It's a 2024 model, I guess 2025 model too. It's equipped with the Core Ultra. This is the Series 1. So this one here, this model specifically has a 185H. There's all kinds of different CPU options you can do. Different screen options as well. This is an NVIDIA powered laptop as well. This one here is equipped with the ATA 3000, which is a variant of the RTX 4070, just with Pro models, Pro driver access. So this laptop is fantastic. I've reviewed, and I haven't actually put out the review, maybe I will, the P16 non-S. You can see this is a very similar laptop, but it's thinner. It looks thick for some reason, but it's not that thick. It's around the thinness and thickness of a thinner gaming laptop, I guess I'd say. It's not going to be as thin as the P16S or something like that, but ThinkPads typically are a little bit thicker because they have a little bit more plastic. They're not as like super thin metal because they're meant to be a little bit robust. This one here is designed for people who want to have very good CPU performance. They want to have very good GPU performance with those ATA graphics, but they don't want to buy into potentially the P16 non-S. The P16 non-S is thicker for sure. It's quite a bit thicker. It's a lot heavier for sure. And it's also going to be much worse on battery life because it does have an HX processor series and the GPUs are typically clocked up higher wattage, but generally speaking, it's just, it's a hotter, thicker, louder chassis, more power, more expensive, whereas this one here is meant to be kind of a hybrid. It's going to give you a lot more power than a P16S that's just using an iGPU or an ATA 500 or something, kind of just like the iGPU will just get the job done for basic stuff. This one here is dedicated, has got serious dedicated graphics. Let's jump into the builder. We don't need to talk too much more about it. If you're looking for a ThinkPad with some serious chops, serious chops, but you don't want to get into something that's quite as thin and expensive as the P1 series, this P16v might be a really good option for you. Let's have a look at the PSRef document here, look at the different options in terms of configurations. We do have 3 CPUs, 155H, 165H, 185H of the Core Ultra Series 1. They're technically all the same silicon. There's just different clocks on them, so I'd probably just pick whatever's cheapest in all honesty. In a thicker chassis like this, the 185H can be cooled effectively, so that's nice. And that's what I have in this laptop here. GPU options here, looks like you can get all the way down to just integrated, which is actually okay on the Intel Arc, but this is meant to be a workstation that's probably geared towards people who would benefit from dedicated graphic acceleration. So if you just need some very basic stuff, you can do the RTX 500. You have the RTX 1000, which is technically a 4050 in terms of the actual silicon. But again, these are all going to get access to the Quadro driver, so they're better for professional tasks. You get a 2000 ATA, which is technically a 4060, and a 3000 ATA, which is technically a 4070. They're all going to be at lower wattage than the gaming performant version of them. They do boost higher than 35, probably more like 45 or 50, but you're not going to get the same raw performance of a gaming laptop with this. In gaming tasks, you can still game, spoiler alert, but for professional tasks, they're all going to be effective. I think the sweet spot's probably the ATA 2000 for bang for your buck. This model here that I'm reviewing has the ATA 3000. It's very decked out. RAM, you do have access to various RAMs. They're SODIMM, so you can upgrade them yourself. Same with storage and that. Screens, there are various options. There are 3 low-resolution screens. I'm not a fan of low-resolution screens. You do, technically, on a small laptop, it's going to be fine. On a large laptop, 16 inches, it starts to get kind of bad for pixel density. The advantage is you're going to save a little bit more battery going on one of these here versus 4K, which is going to use a lot more battery. But, I mean, there's a pretty monumental increase in performance. But there's a pretty big jump here. These 2 bottom ones are just not good screens. They're garbage. Honestly, 45% NTSC are just garbage. If you do want the lower resolution screen, at least get this one here because it is brighter, 400 nits, and it also has 100% sRGB color space, which is viable. It's actually going to look pretty good. However, this model here, I have the Halo SKU again. It's a 4K screen there, 800 nits, nice and bright, 100% DCI-P3. 60 hertz is fine for workstations, so... Okay, and here's the laptop. It's actually much cleaner than I thought. Sometimes these thicker, more businessy ThinkPads that aren't like a P16S can be a little bit thick. It's not an Ultrabook by any means, but the actual chassis you can see isn't super thick. The screen is a little bit thicker too because it's got that plastic chassis. They're meant to be able to stand up to a fall, for example, where you have some form of protection on this chassis away from the parts. If you drop it, it's not going to immediately implode, for example. That's just what they are. They're business machines. So it's very rugged. It is plastic, but it's a very firm kind of ThinkPad plastic, if you know what that's like. Very firm, zero flex on the chassis there. The top is a softer touch material, not like the old ThinkPads from way back in the day, but still quite nice. Feels good. Again, not metal or anything like that. The hinges look nice and robust here. Metal hinge, that's good to see. Overall looking pretty good. Different color top and bottom, that's fine. On the bottom we have double intake there. This is a DGPU model, so you would hope that there'd be pretty good cooling in it. I suspect there will be. And then on the inside here, I mean, we're gonna get typical ThinkPad aesthetics, but it's not a matte black, it's that kind of gray. Dark charcoal, which is better than when it's that shiny black, because the shiny black, like this, it'll show fingerprints. It's pretty bad. So you're gonna have your palms here, and it's a little bit more resistant to fingerprints, which is nice. I like that. And then it's got a typical ThinkPad layout here, function and control swap, which you can swap in BIOS if need be. You can actually do it from Vantage. Looks like speakers firing up there. Off-center trackpad, perfect because you're typing over here. You're not typing over here. The physical track point nib and the buttons that go along with that. Looking pretty good. Dedicated function keys. And then of course, num as well. Very good. Screen up here, you get a physical camera kill switch. No bump out because these typically have a larger bezel. Again, they're not meant to be the sleekest machine. They're meant to be a functional machine. Looking pretty good. Let's check out the weight on it then. 2359, about a little over 5 pounds, but pretty close to 5. Charger, you can charge these over USB-C, but it does have a dedicated power brick because again, dedicated graphics. 2876, so relatively light. If you're just going about your day doing, document editing, you can just use your USB-C by charger, like a little GAN charger, but this is actually not too big anyways. That 170 watt, it's relatively slim for what it is if you need full power on the go. Port selection looks pretty decent. Left side HDMI out, and then you get a card reader there. Right side USB-C Thunderbolt, so you get one of the Thunderbolt ports on the sides. That's good. USB-A, so that's going to be great for accessing that. USB-A over here, so legacy port, what they call it. SIM card slot there, if you want to get a SIM card. Kensington lock slot, and then you do get more ports on the back. It actually doesn't have as many ports as I thought it would. You'd think this thing would have, quite a bit more decked out ports, but it's fine. You get a Thunderbolt there and a Thunderbolt there. Those are you can easily expand as needed. You do get a legacy USB-A, Ethernet, and then you get the power in the back there, which is nice. I don't like power on the sides because it interferes with your mouse and that. It's much better to have them on the back. So having things like Ethernet, a second Thunderbolt, and power out the back is key because you can really use this as like a desktop replacement primary setup with a dock. So that's looking pretty good. Let's look inside. Okay, getting inside looks like it's all washer style screws. They're not going to fall out. That's nice for a laptop like this. You basically just take them out. Just make sure once you open it up and you start to take out the screws, you make sure they're fully loosened because sometimes they'll kind of work their way back in. I think you're best to take out this. I actually just pulled it and I pulled it that way, but I think it's best to take out this little tray here because that might actually work as a little bit of like a lockdown point. So what I ended up doing is I pulled from here and I just went like that and that just fell out. But you might need to make sure that you, with that little SIM card tray, I take that out first. You can see here plastic bottom, but nice and firm. It's that harder plastic, so that should be fine. Inside's going to look pretty decent on this. Again, it's a business style laptop, slightly larger, focused on performance. So inside the battery we have here is a little bit thicker, which allows a little bit thicker in terms of the chassis, but it also allows it to shorten down slightly, which allows more room in here. It is a 90 watt hour battery, despite being, having a smaller surface area like that. But it needs to make the laptop a little bit thicker, which is fine because we need to get the cooling in there as well. We do have a lot of upgradability in this laptop. Dual NVMe, both with copper heatsink. That's fantastic. 1 and 2. So you're going to be able to get a lot of storage in here. Dual RAM. It looks like one is actually empty, which is interesting. So they went with a single stick style on this, but you can upgrade yours. I actually prefer that because it allows you to upgrade more easily down the road. You do have a spot here for Wi-Fi. Very nice, so WAN slot. And then over here, we have the cooling, dual heat pipe setup, dual fan, fairly thick heat pipes. It's not gonna perform with the same thermals as, a high-end gaming laptop, but the graphics in here are lower wattage. This is not 150 watt 4070. It's a lower watt at a 3000, which is technically the same chip, design based on the same chip, but this is a lower wattage one, which is fine. It should be totally fine. So inside actually looks quite good. For a ThinkPad, this is a very, very robust ThinkPad, as you would think from something that is geared towards performance workstation style, but obviously not going to be quite as thick as the P16 full size, which is just a behemoth style. Let's actually get into some testing. We'll start with the keyboard. It's a ThinkPad keyboard. It should be totally fine. Yeah, so it's fantastic. I mean, the actual key caps themselves are not as large. It still maintains the large amount of travel despite that. There's like, I guess this is a plastic keyboard deck, and there's a little bit of flex, but it's not like actual flex. It's just like a tiny little bit because there's like so much component behind there. It can't flex to any location anyways. Trackpad is just a typical ThinkPad. So smooth here, not a sharp click, but it works, serviceable. And then of course you do get the track point nib. So if you're typing an essay, you don't need to remove your hand down here to do that. You can basically just be typing, and then you can actually just move one finger over here on the nub and one finger here on the actual thing and do your moving around like that. So it's nice if you're a touch typist. Okay, let's do an audio test here. I've been finding that these ThinkPads are getting better and better this year. Previous years, the businessy type ones were not fantastic, but that seems to be something they've addressed. So let's see here how it sounds. Just watch your headphones. Turn it all the way up. Okay, so the audio is definitely improved over previous business level ThinkPads from 2023 and before, where they were just bad. It's not going to beat out some of the highest end Yogas from Lenovo, but it's definitely good. Honestly, it's good. It gets fairly loud. Typically, these are actually not tuned that loud. You usually have to get into like FX Sound or something, and you can just drag the volume up. So this is actually very loud for a business level ThinkPad. And there's bass. That's the most important thing. There is low end bass. So again, in the past, these things had no bass whatsoever. So these are actually pretty nice. You can listen to some music with it and have no problems. Okay, screen test now. We'll just go like that. You can see it's not too reflective. It's not going to be a glossy screen or anything like that. So, not touch, nothing like that. But pretty good. Blacks look kind of worse on camera, so we'll bring that down. I see something about like that there. So again, not a reflective screen by any means, and I have a light directly behind me. Now, what's important here is that we have a very high color space screen. So this is the type of device that would actually appeal towards someone who is doing graphic design, content creation type things, because it has such a good color space. You can see right off the bat there, we're getting 100% DCI P3 color space on this screen here. Nice, nice, nice vibrant reds. That's usually where you notice it. We'll come back here for a second and look at the blacks. Bring that down so you see what I see. That's about what I see from the blacks. Good for an IPS screen, not an OLED, but good for an IPS screen. Let's come back and we'll look at another video here. Okay, we'll come into this video here. You'll also see that the greens will look quite good. So DCI P3 color space is very noticeable in those vibrant reds, those rich, bold reds. And it also, you can notice it in the greens a fair bit too. When you don't have a high color space, typically what you get is you get crushed colors, where these will look this grass will look almost dead. This is very vibrant. So honestly, again, for a business level ThinkPad, this is about as good as it gets until you get into, I guess, some of their OLED stuff, if you want OLEDs. Okay, now the fun part. The performance testing. Typically with ThinkPads, the performance mode is tied into the Windows mode, and it actually does make a difference. Typically, it will actually affect TDP, TGP of the GPU and CPU. So, you should actually use them. It will make a difference in theory. So we'll come in here, we'll check the noise and the thermals. So let's raise the back up slightly here so we're not sitting on a soft mat. And we'll come in here and do some Cinebench runs. This is a very powerful CPU, and I'm thinking it's going to supply enough wattage to be giving us a good score. The 155H, 185H, etc. They're wattage scaling, so they don't have a predetermined wattage. NVIDIA or Intel basically allows them to go to whatever watts they want. So if you have a thinner laptop, an Ultrabook, you can have the same chip and it'll just perform worse. And then you have a slightly thicker chassis like this, it supplies more watts and it performs slightly better. The same idea goes for the NVIDIA GPU in here as well. NVIDIA just gives you a max and a minimum, essentially, basically a max, and then the developer of the laptop decides. Looks like here we did peak at 60, we did peak here at 74 watts. 78 watts, sorry, and then we're sitting at 60. So that's going to be fairly high wattage. I mean, it could go slightly higher, but there's no fans, like at all. Well, they're on. That is insanely quiet. What the hell? Is that like a bug? I mean, maybe it'll go, it's not, I guess it's throttling. Yeah, it's weird. The fans are just like, maybe it's tuned to just run. Oh, my best power efficiency. Well, that's why. Okay, so that's impressive. It's silent, and we're still getting 15,415. I didn't see where I clicked there. Okay, so on silent mode, what I'll call the silent mode because it's tied into Windows, it's giving a really good score, and it is actually silent. Like, I was confused. So let's put it into performance, let it rip here for a second. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there we go. That makes more sense. Okay, so now it's going to let itself go a little bit. Yeah, that's user error. I'm going to leave that in the video too. So even at peak wattage, peak performance here, performance mode in Windows, which is performance mode in the laptop itself, we're not getting that loud. 46 I'd consider actually really quiet for a slightly higher wattage system. So yeah, that's that there. I mean, basically in performance mode, you're going to be looking at a nice low pitch fan noise, not annoying, not high pitch, not whirring, nothing like that. No coil whine. It's just a nice air movement sound and pretty quiet. And then honestly, in best power efficiency, it was silent. Like it didn't go at all. So yeah, that's impressive. I'm actually very impressed with that. Let's get, I mean, thermals are going to be, do I even need to do thermals on this laptop? I have my thermal camera. It's like, there's no temperature. No, I'm not even going to do the thermal camera. I have the thermal camera right here, right beside me, and I could literally just put it in and test it. But this thing is so freaking cold. Yeah, that's like room temperature. Yeah, even on the back. But it's completely, there's no temperature here. Like this is, it's like idle temperature. So that's impressive. I mean, plastic chassis, it's not going to transfer heat as much. Blowing it out the back, doing just fine. Just a couple quick benchmarks here. Battery life, I think, is something that people are going to really care about on this laptop. It's nothing special, but it's decent overall. Looks like we're burning here at 4K full brightness, just kind of hanging out, messing around in Windows. About 12 watts, something like that. So you'll get around 5, maybe 6 hours of battery life when you're hanging out. Remember, this is a 4K version here, which does burn a lot more watts than the 1080p. So that's one consideration. If you need more battery, get the low resolution screen. Then doing some 1080p 60 YouTube, again, full brightness and everything, just a couple more watts being burned. So you're going to be looking at about 5, maybe 6 hours of battery life on this laptop on the 4K screen. If you really need more battery, I would recommend getting the 1200p model, 100% sRGB version, because that'll increase the battery life a fair bit, actually. Okay, here's a look at the built-in webcam. I'm actually doing it right after the noise testing, so the fans are really going there. Let's get a little bit more light here. It's looking pretty good, actually, for a business laptop. I mean, it's not a cheap laptop, so you'd hope that it would have a good webcam, but a lot of the times these business laptops actually don't have good webcams. They're quite bad. The polling rate looks really good. Is it 60 FPS or it's just good? It's a little overexposed, but overall I would say it's actually doing a pretty good job. So nice, very good. Okay, so we'll do some gaming now. We'll do some Cyberpunk. Let's turn this down because it's super loud. The reason I'm doing Cyberpunk is this is an ATA 4000, ATA 3000, which is essentially 4070. the same GPU, but it's lower watts. So the only drawback of this GPU is its lower wattage, but the 4050, 4060, 4070 of the ATA Lovelace generations are very efficient, which applies obviously to the ATA. It's the same thing. So we're pulling 52 watts, which should still give us very good performance. This is Cyberpunk at 4K. Now we are unbalanced DLSS. So, I mean, that's a bit, but again, it's 4K. I have VSync off. You just turn it on, to be honest, and so you won't get screen tearing, but that's fine. And we have access to 8 gigabytes of VRAM because, again, it's technically a 4070 chip, essentially. And the frames, 30, whatever, it's fine. But again, this is really high settings. So we can come in here, we can turn that up maybe a little bit. This is 4K, like I said. So go like that, something like that. And this is ultra, right? About 30, a little lower than I'd want, but again, this is not a beast or anything like that. What I would do personally, one of the advantages of having a 4K screen is you can come in here and you can go with native integer scaling. So we can go like that there. We can come down now and we can go to 1080p, or in this case, 1200p, like that, boom. Now it's gonna look a lot better than you think here because you're using a native integer. You're not going from 4K down to 1440p, which can cause like blurriness. You're just basically dividing out the pixels. So it'll actually look pretty good. So what we can do here now is, why does it do FSR automatically? Whatever. We can come in here, we can go back to ultra. We can go, we don't need DLSS, honestly, like at all, but I'll just put it on. I don't know, just whatever like that. We can just turn it off, but that's fine. And then we can try frame gen and that, whatever. But yeah, this is ultra now, 1080p ultra. I only put on quality DLSS because, to be honest, I kind of like it. I think it makes things look better. When there's a little bit on, it makes it look better. Look at that. Look at those frames, right? This is before frame gen. And because our frames are high, when you turn on frame gen, it's not going to become a blurry, leggy mess. It's actually going to be good. So this is very impressive, right? You're on the ThinkPad, and you're playing modern AAA titles, Phantom Liberty here, at very good settings, honestly. It's not going to compete with a 150 watt 4090 or something like that, like whatever. But it's way ahead of what an iGPU can do. Again, this is ultra, right? We'll try a little frame gen here. 129 FPS. I mean, what more do you want, right? We're on a ThinkPad. And you're just ripping there, bud. Okay, let's turn up the settings then, because that's just, now we can. I don't need to play that kind of FPS. You can, it's up to you. If that's your thing, go for it. Let's go back to 4K though. So now we'll go back to 4K. I might turn down the graphics here. We were at ultra transformer quality. Maybe I'll just turn that up. Maybe balance? I don't know. Frame gen is going to make a big difference here. I think this game has 4 times frame gen. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. So frame gen, again, we have screen tearing because I don't have VSync on. You can just turn that on. And you're basically at 60 FPS. I don't know. Go like ray tracing or something. Ray tracing medium. Transformer model on the lightest amount, I suppose. Right? So that's ray tracing on now. I mean, yeah, there's no point going more. So anyways, moral of the story is you can play games very well. You can play very demanding games like Phantom Liberty here with ray tracing and all that. Essentially what you get out of a 4070. Look up benchmarks for a 4070 laptop, a gaming laptop, and I don't know, take off 20% performance because you're at a lower watt. Okay, that's the review. I'm not going to do such a stupid outro as I did for the intro. This is the P16v. I'm very impressed with it. For some reason, I just had this thing in my head that it was going to be like a little bit cheaper. I guess probably because, I was comparing it to the P16 non-S, whatever, just the P16, which typically is, a thicker, very premium metal chassis, but it's a very expensive laptop. I looked at this and I was like, I don't know, maybe in the pictures or something, but it just feels the same as a P16S, T16S, same idea. Pretty light, honestly. It's really light because, they use a plastic material there, so it's not super heavy. Outstanding screen on this one. The 4K OLED is beautiful. It's just a great screen. It's matte, so you don't get a lot of reflectivity. Like you can see a little bit there, but it's really not that bad. There's a light right there. So that's going to give you that. Fantastic trackpad, fantastic ThinkPad keyboard, good trackpad. You get the little nub thing here. Internals look fantastic on this laptop. Honestly, really good inside this laptop. It runs nice and cool when gaming. nice and quiet when gaming, nice and cool and quiet when doing CPU tasks or engineering tasks. So I mentioned it's a fantastic laptop. If you're not using it for gaming whatsoever, I mean, those NVIDIA graphics are going to be, they're geared more towards professional tasks, video editing, engineering, that kind of stuff. It's going to have the chops that you need to get things done. But for gaming, the wattages are actually pretty good. It was like 55 watts or so. So it's going to give you performance probably around a 4060, full wattage 4060. That's the laptop. If you're looking for a professional level laptop as a creator, engineer, whatever it is that you do, this is a really nice laptop. Honestly, very, very nice laptop. But these things, I know I got this open box for a good price, and you're starting to see them pop up open box. And that, and of course, there's like refurbs and all that online, just used market, whatever, and sales. But you can get some of these open box for a pretty good price. And if you can, this might be a compelling option for you. So that's the P16v, really nice.